Hey guys, welcome back to the Speaker's Edge podcast, the podcast dedicated to helping you to learn from some of the world's very best speakers and communicators so you can learn to master your message and inspire your audience every single time you speak. I'm your host for this podcast, Roddy Galbraith. I'm thrilled you've chosen to join us today. Got a very special treat for you today. We're starting a series of looking at people who we've put on stage at the Maxwell Leadership Certified Team conferences, the International Maxwell Conferences that we do twice a year. We put people up on stage in front of thousands of people. That whole process is called stage time, and I thought it'd be fun for us to interview a few of those people and they can talk about the process and what they've learned about speaking and developing as a speaker through that whole process. So we're going to be joined in today's episode by Jason Adams, and he's going to talk about sharing his story. But before we get to that, if you haven't downloaded the companion guide, just go to maxwellleadership.com/The Speaker's Edge, and you can download the companion resources, and we'd love it if you rate and review the show as well. All right, let's dive in. I think we'll start with Jason's video so you can see him in action, and then we'll talk to him about the process that he went through. Watch this.
After 20 years of being a used car dealer, I learned so much about people. Like Oscar, my car detailer. He embezzled $45,000 from my business. Turns out I couldn't trust Oscar. He didn't have any integrity. Then there was Freddie, who I met bussing tables at our favorite restaurant. He had such a great attitude. When he told me that he was leaving so he could spend more time with his family, I asked if he would come and work for me. No one was more motivated than Freddie. He would do anything, at any time, for anyone. He just had a great attitude to life. I could give him $50,000 in cash to go buy a car, and if he got it for less, I knew I'd get the change. Freddie was the best. We had a blast together. The dealership was growing like crazy. Then there was Nigel. He had decades of leadership experience in the industry. He was honest, had all the qualifications you could ask for, and so I thought he'd be the perfect person to run the dealership. After I hired him, it became obvious that Nigel had a bad attitude. No one liked Nigel. In 6 months, he burned through all of the relationships I had built up over 20 years in the business, including Freddie. Nigel ended up sinking my entire business. As I think back over all the years I was a car dealer, it cost me $45,000 to learn from Oscar that skills and a great attitude aren't enough if you don't have integrity. It cost me my entire business to learn from Nigel that skills and honesty aren't enough if you don't have a great attitude. And it cost me nothing to learn from Freddie that a great attitude truly is priceless. If you have a great attitude and you're honest, you can learn any skill you need, because attitude and honesty really are the difference makers. Thank you.
Just like that. What a great job he did. That was good, wasn't it? So now let's hear from Jason himself as he talks about the process of getting ready and stage time and all of those good things.
In every IMC, when people would get up on stage, Roddy, I imagine that would be me. Like, right. I saw it so clearly. But, you know, at the time, and you'll remember this, we were doing the teleconference calls, a free conference call. And
right.
I don't know. I wasn't like into that, you know, like I like being able to see, you know, like I like seeing you right here, right? Like I like the interaction a lot better. So it was after COVID, you know, that obviously changed with Zoom and everything. But it was after March IMC last year, 2025, that I made a commitment that I wanted to take my speaking to the maximum. And I was not going to miss. You lead a call every Thursday morning and Thursday evening. I wasn't going to miss one call. I was going to give it my all, do my very best.
And then you decided you were going to go for stage time
yes.
for the first time, I think, right? Was that in the first time in 7 years? Because for those of you listening, as part of the Maxwell Leadership Certified Team, we have 2 events a year, and we put people on stage in front of thousands of people at each of those. And that whole kind of process is called stage time. And Jason's been a member for 7 years. And I always say, you know, if you've got the opportunity to go for stage time, you should go for it every time, because the video is amazing. The pictures are amazing. The experience is amazing. You grow so much when you're working towards it. It's just such a great opportunity. I don't know. Everyone doesn't go for it every single time. And you've been to all of these different events, and this is the first time you went for stage time.
It was, yes. And I'm so glad I did it. I want to do it again.
Well, tell us about that story then, because we watched your video, and you obviously you stand out because of the crazy wardrobe.
My clown
that
suit.
You always bring to IMC. Very memorable. But you had a great story as well. So tell us a little bit about that. What you decided you were going to go for it. How did you pick your story? How did you develop it? What was that whole process like?
Oh, that's good. Well, it didn't just come, because when you think of your story, for some reason, when I thought of mine, it was, how can I make an impact in people's lives? But in a sense, it's, what have I gone through? What did I learn through all of that? What was my story? And that takes time. That took a lot of, I'm still working on it. You know, I don't think my story's ever over. But every week I was thinking, and I didn't just get stuck on one story, Roddy. It was every week I was trying to think of new stories, because I thought there was a story, you know, I'd send it to my speaking coach, get feedback, and it's like, well, Jason, what's the point? Great story. What's the point of the story? Is this the point, or is that the point? And so I'm like, well, now I'm, you know, it was a consistent evolution, right? A consistent process of trying to up level, trying to improve, trying not to get stuck on one story, trying to make sure that the words matter, and really taking people on a journey, so that way they can see kind of what was happening, and then where you ended up and how you got there and all that. So take people on a journey. And it was.
Sorry to interrupt you. Yeah. Well, it's an interesting experience, isn't it? Because on the one hand, you're asking yourself, like you said, what have I lived out? And John uses that expression. If you say to John, what should I speak on? He's going to say, well, what have you lived out? What have you experienced? What have you learned the hard way? What have you learned from your life? So you're saying, you know, you're looking for those experiences of what you've learned from experience that you're going to speak on. But very often, some of the things that we've learned from experience don't make that good of stories. No one's really interested in them apart from us, you know. Well, and so what we want is a story that's very interesting. But like you said, if you pick a story that's very interesting, that it doesn't have a point, then you're in that kind of loop of, well, it's an interesting story, but it doesn't really go anywhere. Or I've got this story that is a clear point, but it's not really that interesting. And so it does take time to try and find stories where you've got a great insight, an idea worth really sharing, and a great story that brings it to life. So how many stories then did you explore in that pursuit of trying to find the magical mix of insight and example to impact the audience?
Well, I'm not recalling the exact amount, but it was a lot.
Just guess, Jason.
15 different stories, 20 stories. It was a lot, Roddy.
Right.
I mean, you know, like you were just mentioning about, it might be a good story, but that doesn't mean it applies to everybody. And I remember one was about a car, you know, and I remember you telling me, well, Jason, this is great, but it's like, well, are you telling me that, you know, everybody can believe in their dream and it's just going to happen if they believe in it? And it's, well, you know, and I had to think about that. So it was a lot of stories, because you would
over what sort of time frame?
Well, it was March to August, so we're talking, what's that, 6 months? 5 months?
5 months, yeah, probably 5 months, yeah. So over 5 months, you tried lots of different stories?
Probably 4 months of different stories. Right. And then as it kind of came down to it, then I kind of honed in on I locked in on a story. And then once I locked in on the story, I had to be sure I knew that story inside out. You know, you don't want to get out there and fumble, Roddy, and drop the ball.
Well, I always say, and it stresses people out, we've got a 100% success record of putting people up on stage, and no one has ever bombed in, 16 years now. And everyone's like, don't jinx it, don't say that, don't say that. But we wouldn't put you up there if you weren't ready. So, you know, you go through there's quite an arduous process, which we can talk about a little bit, but we want to make sure that you're ready. If we give you a microphone, we want to make sure that you're not going to go over 3 minutes, because you might take somebody else's turn. You're going to share your message. It's going to be of value to the audience, and you're not going to bomb and like drop the microphone and run off, because that doesn't serve the audience at all. Right. And so that process that we've kind of tweaked over the years is so far, like I said, I don't want to jinx it, but 100% success record. Everyone that goes up there does what they've been working on, and you were a great example of that.
Oh, it was phenomenal. It was phenomenal.
So you spent that time, 4 months, trying to find your story. Then you found that story. Then how long did you work on that story so that you were bulletproof in the delivery? No matter what happens, you could carry on going if you're up on stage in front of thousands of people.
I record myself, and then I listen to
Right.
it back, and I would listen back on repeat. So much so, Roddy, that when I went to sleep at night, I would have it playing either through the morning. So when I woke up, the thing is still playing, or I would do like an hour or two time limits, and then after an hour, it kind of shuts off. Yeah, like
Wow.
it's not about me, but fear wants to come and knock on the door. And well, Jason, what happens if you mess up, or what happened? I didn't want to mess up. In church, one of our 4 values is do your best. And so if I
Right.
really said, how do I do my best, Roddy? Well, part of me doing my best is to, as much as I can, practice it, and as much as I can, listen to it back. So that way I'm internalizing so that when the moment comes, what's the Joe Frazier quote?
When the
Like,
bell goes, you're down to your reflexes. That's where your road work counts.
yeah, but it's like you
If you
found out
cheated
under the
on that
bright
in the dark
lights.
of the morning.
That's
Yeah.
right. You found out the
You
bright
get found
lights.
out now under the bright lights. That's
Yeah, I
it.
didn't want to I wanted to get found in a good way. Not
Well, what is it?
wrong.
He also said champions aren't made in the ring; they're merely recognized there, which is
That's
another
it.
great quote. That fits with that.
Yeah.
Champions are merely recognized there. So if you've done the work, you can be recognized there for good. If you haven't done the work, you get found out under the bright lights.
Right, right. So I did my best to put in the work. And it was a
Yeah.
joy. It was such a joy.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think it can be. It doesn't need to be a slog. If you don't place unrealistic expectations on your own head, I have to do it perfectly. I have to do the best. I have to. I should. If you just free yourself of all that and just experiment, then you get better, and it can be a really joyful process.
When I remember you told me one time, you said, Jason, just have fun with it. And that
Yeah.
stuck because sometimes we do kind of put a lot of pressure on ourselves, and we do want to do our best, so much so that if we do mess up a little bit, because we're perfectly imperfect people, that then we can get down on ourselves. And when you said that, just Jason, just have fun, just enjoy it. And it's like, oh, well, that was like the release of the pressure. You know what I'm saying?
Well, you can have fun with it if you've done the work. I think there's
Right,
nothing
right.
better than standing up in front of people and speaking and sharing a message if you've done the work. If you haven't done the work, there's nothing worse.
Yes, 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 I agree.
And if you've done your best, we don't always have the perfect conditions. We don't always have all the time that we would ideally like. But if we've done the best we can with the time that we had, we can't do more than that, then we can enjoy. And if it doesn't go well, what more could you do? But if you haven't done your best and it doesn't go well, there's an emotional toll to that. I think it kind of weighs on you. So we've got to do our best. We can't do
Good.
more than that. And
That's
our
right.
best is enough. Our
Well,
best
and,
is
and,
enough.
and I think it was years ago that you or another one of my mentors had said, like, I'm not attached to the outcome.
Right.
Like, I'm going to do my best, but
Yeah.
that's all I can do. And so if it works, it works, and if it doesn't, then it doesn't. But I know what I gave towards it.
Yeah, we're responsible for the effort, but not the result necessarily. There's a whole load of things
Right.
that may go into the result, but we can control how much preparation we do, how much effort we do.
Yeah, that's
I
good.
love that.
Yeah.
John Maxwell said, spectacular results are always preceded by unspectacular
Unspectacular
preparation.
preparation.
Yeah, and that's really the secret to stage time, I think, isn't it? The unspectacular preparation. Okay, so tell us a little bit about that then, because you made it to the semi-finals. How did you prepare for that? So for people that don't know, the semi-finals is about 30 people on Zoom. It's a little bit like America's Got Talent, where you get one go to do your presentation in 3 minutes, and of those 30 people, we pick 10 finalists. So you must have been thinking, I want to make it as a finalist. I want to make it as a finalist.
Yeah. Well, there's lots of practice, prayer, lots of prayer. I had support around me because, I didn't want to bomb it. Um, make sure you're holding something that resembles a microphone. Be under 3 minutes, because if you're over 3 minutes, you're out. If you're not holding the mic, you're out. Right.
Right.
And that's preparation. It's part of the preparation. I mean, even just before the semifinal, up until it was my moment, Roddy, I had everything muted, and I was rehearsing and listening back, like up until
Right.
the moment I was practicing and preparing.
So that's a great way to practice, because often people think, oh, yeah, I prepared. Well, what did you do? Well, I was scripting out my speech.
Mm-mm.
You can spend ages scripting out your speech. It's not going to help you when you stand up to speak, because you really want to be practicing and working and experimenting with the delivery. That's how you end up bulletproof, isn't it? So you were delivering it, recording it, and then listening to it back while you were preparing to do your semifinal spot.
Yeah, and you don't want to memorize it. And that's one of the things that was really helpful to me that you taught me was, you can script it, that's great. But then after you script it, turn that script into bullet points. Because once you get the bullet points, you kind of know what goes in the gaps. And you got to
Right.
be able to fill in those gaps. So if you can remember the bullet points, then you'll know what goes in between the bullet points, and that will help you internalize it. So that way you're not having to memorize it and based on every certain word, every, the script of it. And that's something that you taught me. It keeps the magic of the first time.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to have that magic of the first time. But I think where people fall over when they memorize it is it's sequential. So they know every word and they can see the words coming, and then they get stuck when they forget a word. And then it's like, well, I've ruined the whole thing now. I forgot that one word, and now I need to, can I go back to the beginning and, and start again? Because I feel like I've ruined it. When you've forgotten one word, but what you're talking about gives you the flexibility to change the words. It doesn't matter. You know the story, you know the bullet points, you know where
Right.
you're taking the audience, and then you can choose other words if you don't remember the words that you're going to use. So you're free
Good.
from the script even if you script it at first, by creating the bullet points. And
Yeah.
that's when you become bulletproof in the delivery, which is really what we want, to be bulletproof. No matter what happens, you can carry on if that's the best course of action.
Yeah, it's good. Well, and you teach us to, that way you can navigate back if you get lost somewhere
Right.
and find
Find
your
your
way
way
back.
back to your story. Yeah.
Right, right. Yeah, it's good. Yep. And then I'll tell you one other thing that was very helpful was to have a coach. Kind of have somebody in your corner that you trust, that you put your faith in, that you kind of take your lead from. They give you feedback, kind of give you some pointers. That was huge,
Yeah,
huge.
it makes a big difference, doesn't it? Having somebody cheering you on, because sometimes you can sort of think, am I even making progress? Am I any good at
Yeah.
this? Am I hopeless or am I great? I've no idea, and to have somebody kind of, because it's a process. Through an orderly sequence of growth, you get better and better and better if you stick at that
Yeah.
process. And so it's useful to have someone to help you throughout the process. And I think that's where the Maxwell Leadership Team does such a great job for so many people. We've
Yes.
put like countless people on the stage in front of thousands and thousands of people at a time. It's a wonderful opportunity, isn't it? You don't get that anywhere else. You don't have
No.
the opportunity to go on stage in front of thousands of people and earn it just because you're good enough to be there. You can't buy it. And I don't know that you could buy that almost anywhere else without spending enormous amounts of money, because that kind of stage in front of thousands of people, that kind of setup is so expensive. It's so expensive to put together.
Oh my
But
gosh,
that's what we
yes.
do.
I mean, you think the Marriott Hotel in Orlando, Florida is massive, and then
Right.
all the signs that's up in these rooms. If your listeners have never been, the rooms that these trainings or the IMC is held in, they're massive rooms, and there's giant TVs and this. Yeah, it's quite a bit, I would imagine, to put that on for sure. Plus, you get photos. If once the stage time people get there, they get photos. They get
And
it's so
video.
much. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah, when
Huge.
you were doing your presentation on stage, there was 4 different professional photographers around you taking pictures from different angles. And I didn't look actually, but I bet you must have got 50, 60, 70 different photos in your photo gallery.
I think
80?
I think it's like 90 or 100. 90,
That's
90,
amazing.
96 is what comes to mind. Yeah, it's
That's amazing. And
priceless.
they are
Yeah.
like, the photo ninjas take the best photos. I remember when Christian first came into the organization, this was like 13 years ago, and somebody said, oh, he's great because he catches moments. And I'm like, what do you mean catches moments? How good can he be? And then you see that he captures moments.
It was a phenomenal.
Yeah.
That experience was priceless.
Yeah,
It's truly
absolutely.
priceless. You can, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And
And
it's
you
just the
earned
result of
it.
hard work. Yeah, you just
Yeah, you earned
put in
it.
the
Yeah.
effort. But I
Yeah,
think it comes from
fantastic.
you got to want to do it. I don't know if it's necessary for everybody, But if you feel that kind of tug on your heart or in your spirit, then I would say, and you said, what do you have to lose? You can
Right.
only get better. You can only grow. It can only be
And the
helpful.
growth is yours to keep, whether you make it or not. The growth is always
Yeah.
yours to keep. So
Yeah.
what would you say if somebody's kind of interested in developing their speaking, they're listening to the Speaker's Edge podcast and they're thinking to themselves, I've heard about the Maxwell Leadership Certified Team. Roddy talks about it every week on the show. Do you think they should spend the time to speak to a program advisor and find out a little bit about it, whether or not it's for them? Or do you think that's too risky?
100%. Yes. No, they talk to them. Talk to them. For me, Roddy, and I don't know if I've shared this with you, but joining the Maxwell team for me was one of the 5 best things that has ever happened in my life. And I've had some great things, I'm married, Amy, we have the 2 kids, I'm a person of faith. So there's 4 of the 5 days I just gave you that are very significant to my life.
So joining the Maxwell team is up there for you, for sure.
Oh my gosh, yes. It's been a catalyst in my life. It's been a catalyst in my family's life.
Yeah, it's an extraordinary thing. It really is. There's something very, very special about it. So if you're interested, check out the Maxwell Leadership Team. If you're interested in developing your speaking, it's such a no-brainer.
Yeah.
But it's far more. It's far more than speaking. But we're talking about speaking, but it's definitely worth checking out. So just if you had any last minute advice then for somebody that's interested in developing their speaking, whether they're in the Maxwell Leadership Team or not, whether they're a speaker already or not, what would be your advice? What have you found has worked well on your journey as a speaker and a communicator?
Well, having a coach and then keep going. Keep growing, because you might not see your growth, but there's stuff happening behind the scenes that you're not able to visually see yet. But after a certain time, you will be able to look back and say, wow, look how much I've grown. Look how far I've come. So just always keep doing your best and always keep trying to grow.
Yeah, it's true, isn't it? There comes a point where you stop and you look back and you don't even recognize the person that you were back then. And with speaking, like one of the most kind of sobering and perhaps alarming things you can do is look back at some of the early video of you from years ago, or even not that long ago, and you're like, what was I thinking? That's awful. Please take that down. That's the thing with the internet. Is up there, isn't it? I look at things from like 20 years ago. I'm like, no, how much do I have to pay to get that removed from the internet so that people can't see it? And even though that's stuff that now I cringe when I watch, people have come up to me over the years from watching those things and said, you've really changed my life when you, and at the time I thought, yeah, because I'm really good. Now I look back at it and think, how did I reach anyone with that? But if you've got good information, even while you're developing and growing, you still can make a big impact on people, can't you?
Yes, 100%. And you don't necessarily know the impact you're making. I think that requires an element of faith. And I'm only saying that, Roddy, because I've had so many people come up to me that have shared how much of an impact I've made in their life. And I'm like, well, I didn't know that.
Right.
So I think that's a little freeing too.
Well, then also think of all the people that don't come up and tell you. It's like a shop, isn't it, where you're providing a great service. Every so often someone says, I love it here. You provide a really great service. And you say, thank you. But how many people just keep coming back without telling you that? You never know, do you? So for every one person that tells you you've made an impact on them, how many others are there that you've impacted that you don't hear about? So just doing your best, like you're saying, is and moving forwards. It's a great recipe, I think, for success.
Yeah. And there's what's the saying of, if you knew you wouldn't fail, what would you do?
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah,
so, I remember reading that in one of Brian Tracy's books years ago, and I'm like, I'd never heard it before. This is genius. Like, if you knew you couldn't fail, what would you do? Because a lot of people said, what do you want? Oh, I don't know. I don't want that, or I don't want that. Well, no, but what do you want? I don't know. If you knew you couldn't fail, if it was definitely going to work, what would you do then? Oh, well, if it's definitely going to work, I'd have this and this and this. I'll have all these things. That's a very freeing question, isn't it? If you've never heard it before.
Yeah, and that's a question that I answered for stage time and speaking. If I knew I wouldn't fail, would I go for it? Well,
right.
Of course I would. Why would I not go for it?
And even if you were going to fail, if you knew you were going to grow and you'd enjoy the process and you'd learn something along the way, it's still worthwhile.
Yes. Well, it doesn't mean quit. It just keep growing. And I think back about when I was a kid playing baseball, I probably naturally had some talent, but I had to develop. I didn't throw the ball 85 miles an hour when I was 7. I didn't throw a curveball when I was 7. I had to learn how to do that stuff. And so as long as you maintain a teachable spirit, you can, and we talk about this, you have infinite potential. You can keep growing your entire life, just getting better and better.
Yeah, I think with speaking, that's important to remember, because people think, well, if I can't do it perfectly, if I can't be as good as John Maxwell, I'm not doing it at all. And it's completely unrealistic. John has grown to be where he is. And if we want to get better, we've got to grow into it. So that's that beginner's mindset and enjoying the process, I think, is really key to it. Fantastic. Well, thanks for doing this, Jason. Thanks for joining us on the Speaker's Edge podcast. It's always a pleasure to catch up with you.
Yeah, I'm a Roddy fan, so thank you. What a joy! What a joy!
Well, I think we've got a lot of people now who are Jason fans after seeing you on stage. Thanks.
Well, maybe one guy called to me, he's like, Jason, I don't know if I can take you seriously wearing that Mario suit.
Yeah, but at least they remember you. Everyone remembers you.
Well, hey, he had the right to be wrong. I say that in good fun. Yeah.
Fantastic. All right. Well, thanks for joining us. Take care. Bye-bye. God bless.
See you. God bless.
What a treat to have Jason sharing with us about his journey to speaking on stage in front of thousands of people at an International Maxwell Conference. And as I said, that could be you. Check out the Maxwell Leadership Certified Team to find out more information. See if it's a fit. You'll be very glad you did. All right, we're going to wrap up there then. Don't forget to download the companion resources. Just go to maxwellleadership.com/The Speaker's Edge. I will see you again soon. And don't forget, communication is a learnable skill. And if you develop your ability to communicate, you can learn to master your message and inspire your audience every single time you speak. That's it for this week. I'll see you again soon. Thanks for joining us today. Take care. Lots of love. Bye-bye. God bless.